This is lesson 31, part 2, and we'll be finishing up our work with ledger lines. Remember that we develop ease and genuine skill by practicing. The first step in learning to read music is understanding the notation and the concepts involved. But genuine fluency only comes when we practice applying those skills. Just like with basic math facts, at first we might have to work through each step very thoughtfully. So at first, we might actually need to physically take 5 apples, add them to another 2 apples, maybe even count them each up until we know that's 7. In time, we would memorize that fact, 5 plus 2 equals 7. And then with even more practice, especially over weeks, months, and even years, we develop ease and proficiency with that fact. Learning to recognize, interpret, and then realize musical symbols is no different. If you want to develop genuine skill and efficiency with reading music, then I encourage you to develop a practice habit. As I've said before, I always encourage at first to just focus on developing the practice habit by aiming low for duration and high for frequency. So even 5 minutes a day, but aim to do that 6 out of 7 days per week. It often helps to do it at the same time of day, if at all possible, so it becomes a habit just like brushing your teeth. It's a daily non-negotiable. We spent the first part of this course focusing exclusively on rhythm reading. In these last several lessons, we haven't touched on that again because I'm focusing in on reading pitch now. But I would encourage you to continue to develop that aspect of your music reading. So in your own personal practice time, feel free to use some of the past videos, especially the practice videos where I work with you together through the exercises in Rhythm Workshop. And also feel free to turn off those videos and work at your own pace. Returning to Jay Albrecht's Ready to Read Music, we're on Unit 3, which is the pitch unit. Lesson 3, ledger lines, and we're beginning on the second page of that lesson. What are the letter names of these notes in the treble clef? Place the answer on the line below the staff. That the treble clef is also called the G clef, and that's because this curly Q action around line 2 helps us know that line 2 is an important spot. If we were to draw a note head there, it would be a G, and from there we'll be able to decode all the other letter names on and above and below the staff. I'm just going to start by drawing out my musical alphabet and then returning to the staff. If this is our G on line 2, I'm going to descend or go backwards through the musical alphabet to figure out that this would be an F in the next lowest space, and then an E, and then a D would be the note just below the staff. The note on our first ledger line, the line note, would be a C, and then the next space note down, hanging from the ledger line, would be a B. And so then this note right here is an A. So this is a low A in the treble clef. Looking at the next pitch, we're going to begin again on this line 2, G. Next space would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G is the first note that's just above the staff. And then this is actually our first ledger line note, which would be another A. So if you note, this was our G on line 2. This was another A. So we've actually skipped up 2 octaves. We've skipped from a low A through a middle A and then to a higher A in the treble clef. Looking at our next pitch, we're even higher. So let's start again all the way down here for some more practice going through our musical alphabet. Here's our line 2, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then the note on the first ledger line is an A. The next space note, ledger line note, would be a B. Then we'd have a line note, which would be our C. And this final space note here is a D. Beginning again on our line 2G, we're now descending or going again backwards through our musical alphabet. So we descend to an F, then an E, D. Then our first line, ledger line note would be a C, then a B, then an A, then a G, and then this low note would be an F. And then our final example, we have a G on line 2, and we're going to descend again, so going backwards through the musical alphabet, F, E, D. A C would be on this first ledger line below the staff, and then this note would be a B. While we're here, I just want to point out as a bit of review the time signature. So note that the top number of the time signature tells us how many beats we have in a measure. So this tells us we have 3 beats in a measure. And the bottom number of the time signature tells us what kind of note value is our beat or pulse note. So in this case, we think of it as the denominator of a fraction, and we know that a quarter note will be our beat or pulse note. We can know that a quarter note will be worth 1 beat, and therefore a half note, which is worth twice as much as a quarter note, will be worth 2 beats. And I also see a dotted half note here. Remember that a half note will be worth 2 beats, and the dot will be worth half of whichever note it's dotting. So if a half note is worth 2, then its dot is worth 1. We add those together for a total of 3 beats. And you can see here that since this half note is worth 2 beats and this quarter note is worth 1 beat, altogether those 2 notes do add up to 3 beats in that measure. Here's our measure line. And then we have 2 beats for this half note plus 1 beat for this quarter note. So they also add up to 3 beats in this measure. Here's our measure line. And then we have a single dotted half note, which is worth 3 beats all by itself, followed by another measure line. What are the letter names of these notes in the bass clef? Place the answer on the line below the staff. Remember that the bass clef is also called the F clef because these 3 dots here all help us know that line 4 is an important spot in the bass clef. This would be our F. From there we can decode all the other notes above and below the staff. So if this is our F, we're just going to ascend through the musical alphabet. G would be our next space note, A, our next line note, B would be the space note just above the staff, and then this first ledger line note will be a C. Again, starting with F on line 4, we climb up through the musical alphabet. G, A, B would be our first note above the staff, C would be our first ledger line note, and then we have a space ledger line note here, which would be our D, and then an E, and then this note that's actually written here would be our F. Now we have to descend, so we're going to go backwards through our musical alphabet. F, E, D, C, B, A, G. F is our first note below the staff. E would be our first ledger line note, and then D, C, B, A. So this is a low A in the bass clef. And notice that this next note is just 1 step higher. So we can know this will be a B. We could also do it the way we've done all the other notes, just by starting at our reference point of the F on line 4 of the bass clef, but we can also sometimes just use a note nearby to find the letter name. Beginning with F again. On line 4, we're going to climb up now through the musical alphabet. G, A, B would be our first note above the staff. C would be our first ledger line note, and then this is a D. Again, looking at our time signature while we're here, note that the top number of the time signature tells us there will be 2 beats in a measure, and since the top number of the time signature is a 2, 3, or 4, we also know we're in simple time. And this will actually be simple duple time because the 2 tells us there are 2 beats in the measure. For the bottom 4, it will tell us what our beat or pulse note will be. And we could think of it as the denominator of a fraction that helps us remember that quarter note will be our 1 beat or pulse note. So if a quarter note gets 1 beat, we can know that half notes will get 2 beats because they're worth twice as much as a quarter note. And an 8th note will be worth just half as much as a quarter notes, so each eighth note will just get half of a beat. So let's just go through and add up our beats. We should have the equivalent of 2 quarter note beats in each measure. So 1 beat for this quarter note plus 1 beat for this quarter note for a total of 2 beats. Then we have a bar line to begin the next measure. We have 2 eighth notes, so each eighth note is worth half of a beat. So together, they're worth 1 full beat. And then another quarter note beat for a total of 2 beats in that measure, followed by another bar or measure line. Use ledger lines to draw the correct notes in the box. This is a half note A. To its right, draw another half note A above the staff. So again, this is a treble or G clef, and this curly Q action around line 2 helps us to know that this is a G. So if this is a G, as they told us, this is our A. So beginning there, let's just keep ascending through our musical alphabet. B would be our next line note. C, D, E, F, G would be the first note just above the staff. And then our ledger line A above the staff would be right here. I'm trying to space it about the same distance as all of these spaces are on the staff. It just makes it easier to read. And I'm going to draw a half note. So I'll just try to center that over the line. Obviously, we're well above line 3 on the staff, so I'm going to put my stem down and on the left. Now draw a half note A below the staff. I'm going to descend through the musical alphabet, so G, F, E, D. That would be our first note below the staff. And now we have our first ledger line note. This would be a C. Still have to go lower. This would be a B, hanging from that ledger line. And now we arrive at our note, trying to space these ledger lines about the same as the staff, just short staff lines basically. There's my line needed for the A, and here's my half note A below the treble staff, and I'm going to put my stem up and on the right because we are well below line 3 at this point. Here's a whole note D. To its right, draw another whole note D below the staff. This is the bass or F clef. These 3 dots help us to know that line 4 is important. This would be our F. F, E, D. This is our D. We're going to descend below that. So C, B, A, G. F is our first note below the bass staff. First ledger line note would be E, and then our D will just hang from this first ledger line, and I'll just draw an open note head because it's a whole note. Now draw a whole note D above the staff. This is our D. Beginning on F, I'm going to ascend through the musical alphabet. G, A, B. Our first ledger line note would be C. And then we're already there. I'm going to put a ledger line, trying to space it about the same as the staff spaces. And then the D will just sit on top of that. It's a whole note, so I don't need a stem. Circle the correct note for the questions below. Which note is a B? All right, so again, we're in the bass or F clef. So beginning right here, I'll just descend through my musical alphabet. E, D, C, B, A, G. F is my first note just below the bass staff. My E would be on that first ledger line as a line note. And so this is just a D. Let's keep going. So my C would be here, which makes this my B. So the correct answer would be this. Which note is a C? So beginning here on an F, I'm going to ascend through the musical alphabet. G, A, B, and here we go. This is our C. Just for argument's sake, let's descend through the alphabet, make sure we got it right. F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F. That's just below the staff. And then this note would be an E. So
the correct answer would be this.